It's official. Neighbours aired its final episode in July of 2022, and the final episode is what boosted it up to number 3 in my soap opera rankings, as it left Neighbours off on a high point as it went off the air. Overall, I liked a lot that Neighbours did. They had to close out a soap opera that's been on since the mid 80s. And they did a good job of tying up the current cast members while also bringing back some cast members from the past to give them their own stories. Now, my history with Neighbours is not that vast. I've seen the first few years of Neighbours in the 80s, and I've seen a lot of Neighbours off and on since 2002. But anything in the 90s, I don't really know anything about Neighbours in the 90s, to be honest. However, I felt like knowing the 80s and the finale being very 80s driven kind of helped me enjoy it a lot more. I'm going to talk about some of the current cast members that they kind of tied up with what was going on with them. We had the Nicolette and Kiri and Chloe triangle. Kiri and Chloe were getting close after Nicolette and Kiri didn't work out because of stuff that happened with Glenn, her father. But it felt like Kiri still had feelings for Nicolette, and Chloe felt that same way, and thought that Kiri should go be with Nicolette, and that's exactly what happened. But then we had the character of Allie return, and Allie was somebody that was getting close with Chloe over the past few years. I saw some of it off and on. But I'm glad they brought Allie back to close this out. Allie had always kind of fought off being gay, or at least having feelings for women. She was able to come back and tell Chloe that she's had a change of heart. She's finally found herself. And I'm glad we got a wrap up on that story. Now, one of the big things, of course, that happened at the beginning of July was Hendrix dying. He had been dealing with a lung issue because of what happened at the school with the whole fire and smoke. Hendrix dying was surprising. I did not expect that to happen, and it left Mackenzie devastated, of course. They were a very solid young couple. I enjoyed them. I enjoyed Zara coming between them, so that story made me actually enjoy Hendrix and Mackenzie more, because they had a good character coming in between them. So them killing off Hendrix was sad. I think they did a good job with the acting and leaving Mackenzie alone. Such a young couple having that vibrant love taken away too soon. It was sad, but they did a good job with it. We had the whole prison story for David. That was kind of like the only story with some big excitement for the month, other than the whole Corey trying to get Harlow and ending up kidnapping Zara. That was some action there too. So we got some action in this last month, which I enjoyed for Neighbours. They brought some excitement, heightened some stakes a little as well. The story that was kind of a miss with current cast members, even though one of the members is an original cast member, that of course being Paul. But the whole Paul and Therese couple, they had an official breakup, and Therese was trying to move on with Glenn, but it just didn't seem like it was going to happen, and she was going to have to be with Paul. Glenn felt that way. This was kind of similar to how Chloe felt about Glenn's daughter Kiri. Glenn felt this way about Therese, and how felt like she was never going to be able to get over Paul. The Paul and Therese relationship, such a toxic relationship. And it's a relationship that was just too played out over the years for me. So Paul and Therese getting a happy ending, I don't even know if that's going to be happy if Therese is just stuck in this coupling with Paul, who just never can do the right thing. But it was always obvious that this was the end game. So I'm not surprised they went this way. I don't know. It felt a little flat for me. It was the flattest thing with the finale was Paul and Therese. But I understand it because Paul is an OG cast member that has been off and on this show for so long. We had a lot of returning characters that I don't have a big connection with, like Harold and Malcolm. But I enjoyed what they were giving to us. I just don't have that connection to the characters, really. We even got Roxy back, a more current character. She came back pregnant. She was also a key to getting Therese and Paul back together. I don't know why that was a thing. Now, Melanie and Toadie's wedding was a big deal, as we got a lot of, shout outs from old cast members / old characters talking about Toadie's wedding, because Toadie goes way back on this show too. Margot Robbie being the big one. I love actors and actresses that never forget their roots. Soap operas, for whatever reason, don't get the respect they deserve, even though broadcast television was built on the backs of soap operas. So people like Margot Robbie and Kylie Minogue and Guy Pearce, people that have had big careers in Hollywood or as a pop star like Kylie Minogue, going back to this show, even if it was just a little shout out, a little recorded video by Margot Robbie for her old character, I love that shit. And I respect that. Never forget your roots, ever. It was also nice seeing Kylie Minogue back as Charlene, Scott, also Scott Robinson, an OG character, coming back for the finale. But where the heart of the finale lied was in the return of Mike Young, played by Guy Pearce, and him returning to run into Jane. This coupling from the 80s brought back all the feels. They did such a good job here that they still had it. They still had that chemistry after all these years. I loved that these two were the focal point of the last couple of episodes of Neighbours. That Jane could find that maybe there's always love out there. And I loved the message. And I just loved the way Neighbours plotted out the finale, looking like so many people were going to be leaving Ramsey Street being the where this all takes place, where it all started for Neighbours. Ramsey Street, and characters leaving was kind of a big deal. In the end, some of the characters ended up staying, of course, especially Susan and Carl, who were always going to stay. And Susan getting the last real monologue kind of thing where they did a really good job with her monologue, even talking about characters no longer with us, and then they panned to some dead characters from the past. Hendrix was one of them, which got me. They showed Hendrix dancing with Mackenzie. Sonia being another big character from the past, shown in that little last montage. What if characters were still with us? Loved that Susan got the last real dialogue. She's been a big mainstay on Neighbours. Neighbours went off the air with a shit ton of heart. They paid respect to the show's past. They went off the air way better than a lot of American soap operas did. As the World Turns and One Life to Live did not have that good of finales. All My Children's was okay. I've never actually seen Another Worlds, to be honest. I think Guiding Light, for as bad of a shape that show was in when it went off the air, it had the best finale of a lot of these soap operas that went off the air over the past 30 years. But Neighbours is up there with Guiding Light for me because it had a lot of heart left in these characters, and they went out showing respect for the past and for the show. I couldn't give it higher than third place because I really think number 1 and number 2 are just giving me good soap opera that I like to watch. But Neighbours getting up to number 3, going out pretty big in my rankings. They went out great. They had a great finale. So big ups to them. And sad to see another soap opera go off the air.